Hi, perfume friends. It's Amy from Savor Salvage Scent. Hope you're doing great. Friends, today I'm going to take a little break in this series that I've been doing on authenticity and signature scents. Here's why. A wonderful friend Beth reached out to me, was asking about suggested Guerlain scents, and I was so excited to converse about it and thought this is actually a perfect station break because it would be about midway through my perfume collecting that I started to get deeply into Guerlain. And this is the first house I fell in love with so much that I wanted to get my nose on just about anything I could. It's probably the most saturated part of my collection are Guerlain scents. And I just think truly, like if I had to, which I'm doing, I'm kind of scaling down my collection and getting back to basics and the things I love the most. If I had to start all over, these to me are some of the best scents ever made, truly. So I am so excited to suggest these. I thought I would concentrate on 10 favorites. Now, some of these, I'm going to tell you the exact scent that is the favorite, but with some that perhaps it might be out of commission or harder to find, etc., I'm going to do types. So I'm doing 10 scents and or types that I would suggest either if you were starting all over with Guerlain, if you just want to listen to some favorites and decide which notes or types are kind of in your lane and choose based on that, or if you just really love Guerlain and want to hear more and converse. So before I get into the 10, I wanted to also suggest a couple channels if you want to hear more about, learn more about, converse more about Guerlain. Two friends who are on YouTube that I think are just the best because they're very experienced with the house and just very knowledgeable and lovely are Memory Flow. I'm going to put his channel below for those of you who aren't familiar. He's wonderful. Guerlain is not the only house he talks about, but he's just, anyways, I've learned a lot from him and he's become a friend. And the second person I would recommend is Sebastian Furtado. He just has, I don't know, we're into similar things. He also collects scarves, so I love listening to his channel, but he has some really interesting Guerlains in his collection and does very deep dives into each scent and just, he's wonderful. So those are two channels I suggest. I'm gonna dive into the top 10 and I just need to say, these are not all the Guerlains I love at all. I think, again, it's a house that I adore, but these are the ones that I would say are very kind of representative of types, and either that or they're just very tied to a transformative experience I've had. All right, top 10, here we go. Those of you who know me might know that Samsara was one of my first beloved scents, and this was my introduction to the house of Guerlain. I think like a lot of people, I had seen other Guerlain perfumes or bottles on people's dressers or, knew about the house. But this is the one that hooked me. I think part of the reason, one, I sprayed this thing on me and I couldn't stop thinking about it for the 2 days after, and then I bought a bottle. But I think part of the reason I loved it is there were things that were familiar about the scent. I worked at a garden center growing up at times, and I smelled a lot of jasmine. I also smelled, I love narcissus or daffodils. My parents and I would go picking them at a certain farm when I was growing up, and I think those two notes really come out in this. On top of it, I think there are some green things mixed in here that reminded me of Lorraine, one of the first beautiful perfumes I ever owned. So I think there was some throwback kind of feeling in this. And then there were things that I didn't have as much experience with. I will say though, I think there are also some like ambery tones running through this. It reminded me of things from my childhood, but this is worth more than the sum of its parts. It continues to move me in a way I don't even necessarily understand. When I first wore this, and every time I've worn it since, it transports me. It helps me travel to, like, I'm not kidding, mystical places or things in my mind, places that exist or might not even exist. It is just such a transformative scent for me. Love it. Samsara, number 1. It would seem wrong to talk about Guerlain and not talk about Shalimar. but I'm gonna be totally transparent and honest that this was not an immediate love for me. I bought a modern bottle of Shalimar based on, you know, learning about it through YouTube and Katie Puckrick and some of the first people I learned and listened to and from. When I first got this, honestly, it was a little too old-fashioned for me, and I'm into vintage things, and it was a little too funky. It had this funky DNA. Quick note about DNA. I really do believe Guerlain is a house, and this is part of the reason I love Guerlain, that has a DNA running through most of its scents. Sometimes it's only perhaps 1% of the composition. Sometimes it smells like it's 70% of the composition. I don't know if it is. But what is that DNA? To me, it's a powderiness. With Guerlain, it's things like violet. It might be iris. It might be heliotrope. It's this powdery makeup kind of feeling. And then it's mixed with a funkiness. One of the things I loved when I was learning about Guerlain, I think it was one of the first Guerlains, probably Jacques, who wrote that some Guerlain scents that he had created had a sense of the undercarriage of his mistress running through them. I mean, I think it smells like the body. And for me, that's not all bad. It makes these, what could be almost too perfect to wear scents, wearable and human. But when I first got this one, I was like, I don't know. Now, the good news is I held on to it. This is now my second bottle. And then my taste changed over time, and I learned to love this. It's now exactly, you know, one of the things that I love. It's super vanillic. It's got a lot of benzoin, so it's like, I think it has tonka in it too. It's got this like earthy, spicy vanilla kind of feel, but it also has that funkiness, that DNA, and in this case, it's real smoky. And I love this. I love it, especially during the winter. And frankly, I love it when I feel like I need to wear a force field. Another thing, by the way, that helped me fall in love with it was after I kind of put down that more modern bottle, I found some vintage bottles at antique or thrift stores. I've been really lucky. This is not everybody's experience. I spent a lot of time in thrift stores though, and I have found vintage Guerlain for like 5 to 10 a piece. The reason I think it was easier for me to fall in love with these older bottles is because the top notes had faded a bit, and what was left was more of this syrupy vanilla, tiny bit less of the funk, and more of the like resinous quality came out. And so love these. If you can find a vintage bottle, especially if you're also a person that goes thrifting and antiquing and junking a lot, highly recommend getting a vintage bottle. This to me is like, you know, hate to say it, but if I had to run from the house and grab a few perfumes, this would be one of them. Just love it. Third, this is an old bottle of Bleue. I think part of the reason I love this is because it has some elements from perfumes I loved early in my life. I'm really into carnation, some major carnation running through this. I'm also really into anise, basilic, licoricey scents, and it's got some of that too. And then the other reason I think this was kind of an easy, though old-fashioned scent for me to fall in love with is because if you've ever smelled Oscar de la Renta's Esprit de Oscar, that was a scent that I really loved early in my life, and I honestly think it got a lot of its inspiration from this scent. You know, it's named essentially for the blue hour, which is, I believe, that hour after really the sun has gone down, but it's not quite dark, and it literally has like this beautiful blue hue. And this has that feel. It's got like a softness, a duskiness to it. It's not quite sad or melancholic for me, but it's kind of moving into that time. So I just love this scent. It's got so many elements that I love, and I think this is just a classic Guerlain. And it's, I think, remade in its more modern bottles that are kind of throwback, but like these, but I found this for a steal years ago and absolutely love it. Next is Insolence. I actually had an older bottle and went through it first. This, unlike the first few that I talked about, to my nose, is not a super complex composition. This is really about violets, iris, and powder, and kind of a candied version of that. If you've ever had Choward's violet gum or mints, that's what this is to me in a bottle. It is super feminine. Anybody can wear it, but I do find it to be very feminine, and it's playful, it's innocent. What's interesting about it to me though is it's not juvenile to me. I still think, I don't think scents are gendered or with an age, but I think anybody at any age could wear this and feel and be sophisticated. It is much more focused on a few notes, and I think it's the best of its kind. So if you're looking for something that's purple florals and powder, gorgeous, candied version of that, Insolence. So that is number 4. Number 5, my dear friend bought me a vintage bottle of Chamade. I think Chamade is terribly under-recognized and not talked about enough. And she bought me these 2 vintage bottles. I highly suggest you read up, just Google Chamade Guerlain if you're interested in this bottle. It's a really cool story, beautiful. And frankly, when I started looking for the scent, it was just to fill this bottle, to like kind of have the library, so to speak, and to get my nose on it, see what it was like. But I did not expect to fall in love with it, partly because, again, it's never talked about. So I just thought maybe it doesn't register for a reason. And then I found this very old bottle and absolutely fell in love with it. It's got that powdery floral thing, a little bit of funkiness. It's on my left wrist today. Oh my gosh, the dry down is everything to me. So it's powdery, but then mix in some hyacinth. If you like hyacinth, but find that it can be screechy in a lot of perfumes, this is one to check out. And then there's also a bit of blackcurrant. So it's got that like fruity greenness of blackcurrant running through it too. And when it dries down, it's just this complex but powdery, gorgeous scent. So Chamade is my number 5. I absolutely love it. And I was really surprised when Guerlain, maybe 5-6 years ago, I feel like, kind of reintroduced some of its scents. This had been discontinued for a while. That's why I have this whole bottle. But then it came back in this kind of newer bottled line. And so I was really surprised. I still don't hear many people talk about it though. So not sure why. Number 6. If you do not have a Guerlain Aqua Allegoria scent, I would suggest looking into them. So these are known to be kind of the lighter, more freshy. They're supposed to be more like water, like their name. I'm going to give you a few examples because sadly a few that I really love have been discontinued and now are expensive. I would just say look into the Aqua Allegorias in general and then find one that you love. But I'm going to talk about 3 that I love. My absolute favorite is called Limon Verde. And this is one that's been discontinued and now it's very expensive. Darn it. This is lime and grass. And it is to me the most refreshing scent. I have gifted this to a few people who do not find themselves to be perfume lovers, but are into natural scents. 2 of my friends also who are deeply into perfume love this. It is absolutely beautiful. Thank goodness I have a backup because it's so expensive now, but just needed to talk about it. I also love Herba Fresca. I don't have a bottle of that. A dear friend, you know who you are, sent me a small bottle. It was a few years ago, right before I went to Paris. I used the whole thing. And it will forever remind me of Paris. I will have another bottle one day, but I think it is also not being made any longer. Let me know if I'm wrong. Anyways, the green ones I find to be phenomenal, but 2 others that I own and love and wear the most are Nerolia Bianca. I'm gonna talk at the end about where I find these, but I would say, actually I'll talk now about it, usually on fragrance.net, sometimes by reputable sellers on Mercari or eBay, and sometimes even through swaps or friends. But anyways, Nerolia Bianca can still be found somewhat affordably. And if you like orange blossom and neroli, it's definitely so. I feel like a lot of the orange blossom scents that are really in fashion today are so syrupy, so sweet that frankly, some of them give me a headache, which is rare for me. as far as perfumes, but this actually smells like true orange blossom. And it smells like neroli, which are like the greener part or greener smelling parts of the plant. It's really a difference in distillation, but anyways, it's to me got a more pungent or green scent, and this to me is the best of that type of perfume. And again, love this in the summer and spring, but I even wear it sometimes during the winter when I need to pick me up. Another Aqua Allegoria that can still be found somewhat affordably, I believe, is Rosa Pop. If you love Insolence and find that to be the perfume version of violet candy, this to me is the perfume version of rose candy. It's got this sparkling kind of candied nature. It's light, but still beautiful and noticeable, and it has a bit more rose. It has other florals in it too, but I think it's actually to me a gateway into rose. This is beautiful, light, gorgeous. Next, number 7. If you like rose in any way, shape, or form, Nahema is just a masterpiece. I think that word is overused. I think this perfume deserves it. Other things that come out a lot to me in this are like, it's a jammy rose, it's ambery. It's funny, I don't think there are spices listed on the notes list, but I get some spice. Oh, it is so gorgeous. It also has a fair amount of peach running through it. And this is one like Samsara that it just moves me and transports me in a way I don't even understand. All I know is when I first smelled it, this had been discontinued. I really wanted it, but it was too expensive. Then it kind of came back in this new bottle and was somewhat affordable. And I just smelled it and thought, I can't believe how good this smells. I mean, this is one where I can't stop sniffing my wrist when I wear it. I just love it. If you love rose and you love a complex rose, Nahema is great. It's strong too, y'all. Number 8. As I said before, I'm not really into this idea that scents should be gendered. However, I've just been slower getting to the male-marketed Guerlain scents. My dear friend Lynn, knowing I think that I loved things like Chanel Sycamore and green scents, sent me a decant of Guerlain's Vetiver. This is really marketed to men. Guess what? This is freaking phenomenal. After I went through her decant, I had to buy this. The good news is super affordable. Oh, you know what this smells like to me? It smells like a romp in the hay that is not quite straw-like yet. It's still a little green and the sun's out. You've got that like sunny, sunshiny feeling. It's not just fall like some vetiver is where it just smells like everything's dried, like dry leaves. This is still a little green too, and it's just gorgeous. I mean, this to me, I can't imagine that it was only marketed to men. And frankly, I can't imagine that some of these were only marketed to women either. If you know that you like vetiver, if you know that you like green scents, Guerlain's Vetiver, absolutely a must-have to me. Now I'm going to close this with a couple of their more modern scents. One being Mon Guerlain. This, I believe, is I forget if it's called Elixir or Intense. It's the stronger kind of version. And I'll be honest, this is another one that I was slow to love. And I think it's because in some ways it reminds me of things I don't love that are on trend right now. And that would be really syrupy florals. And here are some that I think of when I first smelled this. Scandale, La Vie est Belle, Lead, which I like Lead, but these very syrupy florals. Some of them have lavender too. So this has got some of that. This is somewhat lavender. This is very syrupy and strong to my nose. The thing that I think keeps me really interested in it is the licorice. And then this is one that just grew on me over time. It is such a beautiful, it's the most gorgeous vanilla. Gosh, Guerlain does vanilla well. This is vanilla, licorice, lavender. I think this probably has a little orange blossom in it too. And it just grew on me. I love this version. And last on my top 10 is this beautiful scent that I think is kind of oddball for Guerlain. Has a little of the DNA going through it in that it's soapy and powdery, but This is one that was not popular. You can find it dirt cheap for that reason. A few of us who I think are Guerlain collectors really love it, but I think honestly, this was not a favorite for a lot of folks. This is the Petite Robe Noire Fraiche version. I think it's called like Les Petales Fraiche. The things to know if you're trying to find this is it's the green juice and it's the Fraiche version. List will be below in the comments. Here's what is so cool to me about this. It smells to me like expensive hotel soap mixed with pistachio and almond. Vanillic, maybe grassy. It's like a clean scent with those notes. And then there's some nuttiness to it. So it's strong too, I find. This is one, especially if you wear it on your clothes too, I experience this for days after I spray it. This is one you probably have to blind buy. I don't think anybody has it in store, but if you can find it online, it's super affordable. So it's great for that reason too. I'm gonna close talking about a few inspired by scents. So I try not to buy, let's say, inspired by or dupe scents a lot because for those of you who don't know, I work in the art world. I believe that perfumers are artists, and they are. And I feel like the recognition and money should go to the artists when at all possible. Having said that, there have been Guerlain scents that have gone out of commission that are just too hard to find. So, you know, that's a reason for me to buy an inspired by or dupe. And then I'll be honest, while I felt loyal to Guerlain for years, and I would suggest if you're interested in learning more, I've done a few videos on my collection and also on my experience going to their shop in Paris at the Champs-Élysées. However, I believe their prices have gotten ridiculous and so exclusive to the point that it's excluding most of us. And so there are a few that I cannot afford anymore. And their art and material line, I hope I'm saying that correctly, they start at like, I want to say $350 and go up to $500-600. I just cannot do that. It's crazy to me. Again, I think they're worth a lot. I just can't do that. So if you're in that boat with me, and or your favorite Guerlains have gone out of commission, I'm going to talk about 3 inspired by scents and houses that I think are great. Here we go. First, and I'm going to tell you which scents they are inspired by. There's a company called Generic Perfume Oils. They make from tiny, tiny little like drams to larger perfumes. Some are oils. You can also get ones that are alcohol-based, that are, you know, sprayers, mists. And this is an inspired by scent that is supposed to smell like Guerlain's French Kiss. French Kiss was one of the greatest Guerlains I ever smelled in the store. It was this lightly fruity raspberry kind of lipsticky scent, but it was the best of its kind. It was like just phenomenal. And then I believe they stopped making it. I don't think they make it anymore. I'm not kidding. The prices went up from like $500 to $1,000. I'm like, I just can't. So this company makes a phenomenal inspired by scent. If you missed that, or if you're curious about French Kiss, gorgeous generic perfume oils. Oh, and they also make a great inspired by for the Guerlain Shalimar Millésime Vanilla Planfolia. That is so good too. I've tried it and I ran out, but it's so good. The next house that I had never heard of until I went searching for inspired by scent, I was looking for Angelique Noire. That's another scent I smelled in the store, and I think it was around $200, $250 when I first smelled it, and I was considering getting it. That would have been a like once a year splurge to me or something, but then it got even more expensive. I just could not afford it. And then I found Aurora. This is by a company called Strike Gold Shave. Most of their stuff is shaving based, but they have a few inspired by scents, and one is this Aurora. It smells, this is one of my top 3 green vanillas. It is got that pungent kind of almost, bitter but beautiful greenness running through it, and vanilla. It is just so beautiful. This is another one I sprayed in the shop, and I mean, for a day I just was like, oh, I cannot believe how good this is. So this is a great inspired by by Strike Gold Shave called Aurora. Beautiful. And then last, I've been reluctant to talk about or buy from this house because I frankly find their infiltration of YouTube to be on the verge of obnoxious. But I really loved Guerlain's Gourmand Coquine, and I don't think that's made any longer. Correct me if I'm wrong. If it is, it's one of those that's like $400 plus. This is Dua's version, and it is called Dark Chocolate Rum and Vanilla Symphony. This is heavenly. I don't even really like chocolate. To me, that's how good Guerlain is, and that's how good of a dupe this is. This smells like powdery chocolate, but yet kind of earthy too. I'm guessing there's tonka in this too. Definitely a little bit of rum, not a huge amount though, not enough that like, you know, you get pulled over. They're gonna think you're drinking. And vanilla, it is absolutely gorgeous. So this is Dua's Dark Chocolate Rum and Vanilla Symphony. So that was a long video, y'all. I had to give them their due. I would love to hear from you about your Guerlains, if you own any. Do you have favorites? What perhaps on my list do you love the most? And what's missing? Talk soon. Thanks for being here. Cheers. Bye.